Life is the interaction of mind and matter. I got involved in this field way back in the mid-70s as a result of attempting to do a modest replication of the remote viewing experiments that had been reported by the folks at SRI. It was a phenomenon that struck me as rather unbelievable. And in particular, the fact that they claimed that people could sometimes describe scenes where somebody else would be before the scene was identified. So really the precognitive aspect of it intrigued me enormously. With a colleague of mine at the time, I carried out a small replication. We got remarkable results, which blew me away. And from there were just a whole sequence of questions that needed to be asked, and we carried out a few more such experiments. And it was in the course of reporting the results of these at a professional meeting that I met Bob John, and he was apparently impressed by what we had done. And at that time, he was planning to set up a program at Princeton and asked me if I would be interested in working for him, and I said, "You bet." And a year later, I joined him here and we set up the PEAR lab. I think that the psi phenomena are that crucial to all of our debates and all of our major philosophical questions, and are going to take us away from this purely dualistic way of dealing with the world. Remote and off-time experiments results don't differ very much at all. Qualitatively, they look very much the same. That's the most amazing and most puzzling part of it. And that's what's telling us that whatever this phenomenon is, it is not limited by space or time. Distance doesn't seem to matter at all in these experiments. You can have somebody sitting here, with the machine a foot away from them or 5 feet away from them. You can have the machine in the next room. You can have the machine 10 miles away, and we've done experiments that were literally halfway around the world. Didn't matter. It's somehow beyond or underlying space-time and raises these very important points that space and time are not absolutes of the world. They are projections of our own ordering principles. You talk about the famous wave-particle duality, for example. If you want to see a wave, you make an observation one way. If you want to see a particle, you make the observation another way. But it is your intention to look for a wave or a particle that determines how you're going to make your observation in the first place and how you're going to interpret what you observe. So the paradox is not in the physical world. The paradox is in the consciousness. Well, the paradox is resolved by recognizing that it is consciousness and intentionality and the exchange of information that determines whether something is a wave or is a particle. You are not looking at something that's necessarily some kind of weirdness in the world, but perhaps it's telling us something about the way we tend to look at the world. That if these things happen, if they occur, and they occur reasonably, reliably under controlled conditions, they're not paranormal. It's simply saying that the rules that we have for describing and understanding the world are not complete. These are simply hints, as anomalies have always been in the history of science, that your science is not complete yet. And when you go back through the whole history of science, you find it's been driven by phenomena that don't fit the rules. And when you look at the science of today, the thing that's not being taken into consideration is the scientist, the human mind. And yet, science itself is a production of the mind. The experiments tells us that there really is no separation between consciousness and its environment. life is the interaction of mind and matter. And since all of these anomalous phenomena involve consciousness, they involve the subjective dimension of experience, the message that comes through is that if we are going to understand reality, we have to look at the subjective side as well as the objective side.